Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. My name's Ryan, in case you don't know. Today, we are going to be taking a look at one of the teams out of the new Kill Team Soul Shackle box, namely the Hand of the Archon Kill Team. This team looks really cool, really unique with some of the tricks they can do, so I'm super excited to dive into them. But before we do, I do have to give a special thank you to Games Workshop for sending this box out to Shane and I early. There was a shipping delay with it, so that's why this video is coming out a little bit late, but I really wanted to wait until I had the actual rule book in hand. Just because honestly, just so I could like take pictures of the pages in here and be able to show them to you on your screen right now. So without further ado, let's just dive into it, okay? So the first thing you have to know about the Hand of the Archon is the archetype for this team is going to be Recon, Security, and Seek of Destroy. So you have a pretty good spread of optional, or I guess, tac op options for you. So that's pretty cool. And then the next thing you got to know is that this is going to be a 9-model kill team. So you're going to be taking your Cavalite Arch Cyberite as your leader, and then you have a list of a few different options. Your specialist, your standard like trooper or cavalite agent in this case, and you can choose 8 operatives from that list. Obviously, the only models you can double up on are the cavalite agent. We've been here before. Important to note is that your kill team can only include up to 2 dark light weapons, and then it says blast pistol, blaster, and dark lance. I'm one to always want to forego any sort of weapon that has like the heavy keyword. So, spoiler alert, Cavalite Heavy Gunner. The Dark Lance is AP2 heavy and unwieldy, so that automatically turns me off. So I would the way to go, would probably be with the blast pistol on your Cavalite Arch Cyberite, and then to take the blaster on your normal gunner, on your Cavalite gunner. What I do want to talk about now is their army-wide ability, their kill team-wide ability, Power from Pain. So each time a friendly Hand of the Archon operative incapacitates an enemy operative with a wounds characteristic of 5 or more, it gains a pain token. And then if that enemy operative had a wounds characteristic of 11 or more, it gains 2 pain tokens instead. And then you can spend these pain tokens on what are called invigorations. So it says here you can spend friendly operatives' pain tokens on the invigorations opposite when the when condition is met. For each pain token you spend, remove it from the operative with the exception of stimulated senses. Each invigoration can only be used once per activation. So the invigorations are Dark Animus. You can trigger this when the operative is activated. You add 1 to its APL. So the majority of this team, if not everything in this team, is APL 2. So being able to go up to APL 3 can really help your team out. Any team out, really. I would love something like this, especially late game when you're going to be down a few models and you're going to want those extra activations. Next up is the Vitalized Surge. So after incapacitating an enemy operative with the operative, perform a free dash action even if it has performed a charge action during that activation. So that can be kind of interesting on Into the Dark with some, I guess, non-reciprocal shooting situations going on. I could see this being used on like gunners, or maybe your leader to duck behind a corner after he blasts somebody with the blast pistol. I guess I wouldn't be using it that often on like melee models who charge, fight, and then they get to perform a free dash unless there's like a corner that they can duck behind or something like that, and they're just not going to be able to be seen by any of my opponent's shooting models. And the last one is Stimulated Senses. So remember, you can use this one more than once per activation. Yeah, each invigoration can only be used once per activation with the exception of Stimulated Senses. So after rolling one of your attack or defense dice for a combat or shooting attack with the operative, reroll that dice. So interesting way of getting basically free attack rerolls. Not really free, but... And then I mean like the APL one is probably the strongest out of all of these. The majority of this team, it looks like they already have. They're they're all like ballistic skill 3. So I mean, yeah, ballistic skill weapon skill 3 or better. So I mean, that one probably isn't the most efficient, but it's good. So that's cool. Having some dice manipulation, not really dice manipulation, but just like having some insurance with your die rolls. Um, cool. Yeah, so that's Power from Pain. So now I guess we'll go ahead and get into their ploys. So they have Blade Artist for 1 CP. So until the end of the turning point, melee weapons friendly Hand of the Archon operatives are equipped with gain the Rending critical hit rule. So that means that each time they fight in combat or make a shooting attack, in the roll attack dice step of the combat or shooting attack, they can retain any critical hits, or excuse me, if you retain any critical hits, you can retain 1 normal hit as a critical hit. So you can get 2 for 1 on critical hits. So that's pretty cool. And this works in, yeah, it works only in melee. So that can be very good, I think. There are a lot of like combat models in this kill team, so we'll get into those soon. Next up is Fleet of Foot for 1 CP. So until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Hand of the Archon operative performs a fallback or normal move action, it can immediately perform a free dash action after that action, or vice versa. Immediately perform a free dash action after that action, or vice versa. So it can perform a free dash action and then fall back or make a normal move. I like this one a lot. Any sort of way of giving any sort of kill team, or any way of just giving any kill team some extra movement, especially now on like Into the Dark boards, I think is really, really good. So I think that can be pretty powerful. Next up, we have From Darkness Death. So until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Hand of the Archon operative is activated, you can select 1 enemy operative that friendly operative is not in line of sight of. Until the end of the activation, the first time that friendly operative fights in combat or makes a shooting attack against that enemy operative, in the roll attack dice step of that combat or shooting attack, you can retain 1 successful normal hit as a crit instead. So I mean, with the pretty much 3-ish, on average, they hit on 3s, whether it's shooting or melee with this team. So you have a pretty good chance of getting at least 1 normal hit. So getting a crit out of that, and having this go across your army, that could be pretty good in some clutch situations. I don't know, turning points 2 or 3, and more like late game turning points 3 or 4 against like elite teams and stuff like that, where you've been chipping away at them and then you really want to finish them off around that point. I think that would be the time to play that. Next up, we have Denizens of Night. So until the end of the turning point, while a friendly Hand of the Archon operative has a conceal order, is within 3 of your drop zone, and is more than 6 from the active operative, so one of your opponent's models, it's always treated as having a conceal order regardless of any other rules, including Vantage Point. So this, I think, is going to be I think it's a good insurance policy on some suspect open board terrain, where you're not going to have as much to hide behind as opposed to like Into the Dark boards. The amount of times where I have misplaced a model and have gotten like grenade launchered by one of the worm coil gunners, like turning point 1, and it winds up doing splash damage to like 4 models who I have hiding behind what I thought would be some type of like obscuring terrain. This, I think, helps solve that issue. So pretty cool. So now we're going to get into the tactical ploys here. First up, we have Cruel Deception. So use this tactical ploy when a friendly operative is activated. Until the end of its activation, that operative can perform the fallback action for 1 less action point to a minimum of 0 AP. I think it's okay. I can't really think of a situation, like just like a general like strategy that I could form around this right now. just because like the wounds counts for most of these models are like 9 and 8. So like hugging or just like charging a model and then just choosing like not to fight with it as a way of protecting your models from shooting isn't that good with this team because of their relatively low wounds count compared to like teams like Intercession, Legionnaires, those sorts of teams. So I don't know. I think that one won't see that much play. Next, we have Devious Scheme. So use this tactical ploy after an opponent uses a tactical ploy or strategic ploy. The next time they would use that ploy, they must spend one additional command point to do so, at which point the effect ends. You cannot use this tactical ploy again during the battle until its effect has ended. So I'm a really big fan of this one. I think that there are certain teams out there, such as Intercession, who really like basically the shoot on death tactical ploy for 1 CP. They really like Tactical Doctrine on Into the Dark. So giving me an option to basically put a tax on my opponent for using one of their key stratagems, I think that's really cool. This is obviously like mirroring Vect, I think is the name of the stratagem that the Drakari have in 40k. So yeah, I think that one's pretty cool, and I love this one. Next up is Heinous Arrogance. So you use this tactical ploy when it is your turn to activate a ready friendly operative, and you can skip on that activation. This one I think is like potentially like sleeper hit, because now it's like you're a 9 model team, so like this one's really gonna hurt like elite teams, like Intercession, like Legionnaires, etc. Where it's like, oh, it's my turn to activate. Nope, it's back to you. I'm putting my opponent first, basically. I get to react to whatever you're doing a lot easier. So I think that one's pretty good. Prey on the Wounded for 1 CP. Use this tactical ploy after rolling attack dice for a combat or shooting attack made by a friendly operative. If the target of that attack has half or fewer of its wounds remaining in the roll attack dice step of that combat or shooting attack, you can reroll any or all of your attack dice. I think that one's going to be a really good late game where you've got models where you got like your opponent's models wounded, or I guess injured in this case. And it just makes finishing them off, deleting them just that much easier. So yeah, really cool. So moving along here, we're going to get into the operatives now. First up is, of course, the Cavalite Arch Cyberite. I've already talked about him a little bit. You're going to want to take the Blast Pistol on him. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4 or 5, range 6 with AP 2. Very nice. And then I believe he has to take the Venom Blade with that. So this Venom Blade, honestly, I kind of like it. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, damage 4/4 with lethal 4. So, I mean, the damage profile is the same whether you normal hit or you crit, but getting crits that much easier, that it basically translates to your opponent is not going to be able to block as many of your hits if they want to stay alive instead of prioritizing killing you. And the more crits you have, the more survivable you can be if you just want to get your model in combat with something and you want to just block them out, basically. He's got the cunning ability here. So in the play strategic ploy step of each strategy phase, if you pass at the first opportunity, you gain 1 CP. I think this is really cool. You definitely want to be doing this probably like turn 1 in almost every game, or maybe turn 2. I think turn 2 in almost every game, because turn 2 is typically when stuff kicks off. People have been saving their CP. Specifically, I'm talking about like on games of Into the Dark. So the odds of you say you have priority turn 2, you pass, it goes over to your opponent. The likelihood of them passing instead of choosing to use a strategic ploy is incredibly low, because if they pass, then the strategic ploy phase ends, and then it goes to your target reveal or your attack op reveal. So like that can be really good. I don't think most opponents would pass just to deny you 1 CP. when it's turn 2, if you're on Into the Dark, you already have so much CP stacked up if you didn't spend any turn 1. So yeah, that's a really cool ability. I love it. I love it. And then he's got Take Aim. So who else here has Take Aim? I think it's just the Arch Cyberite and like your basic agent. I should have read this before. You should. This is basically you're only ever going to use this on your Cavalite agent. So there's nothing left to talk about on the Arch Cyberite. I'm just going to go to the Cavalite agent now. Cavalite agent has Take Aim until the end of the activation. Splinter Rifle gains the Balance special rule, and then you cannot perform this action while within 3 of an enemy operative. So, yeah, nothing really to write home about. I think yeah, I don't know. I don't really think it's that good. Next up, we have the Crimson Duelist. So the Crimson Duelist is pretty cool. They have a Splinter Pistol, which is just a range 6. It's the Splinter Rifle with a range 6. Cool. So we've got the Razor Flail. So 4 attacks, hitting on 2s. Very nice. Damage 4/5 with Brutal and Flail. Brutal, obviously, your opponent can't block unless they roll crit, unless they're blocking with a crit, I should say. And then the Flail ability, each time this operative fights in combat, and the result successful hit step of that combat, each time it parries, 2 of your opponent's successful hits are discarded instead of 1. That one is really, really good on Into the Dark, I think, where there are certain instances where you want to basically charge an opponent's model at an access point and kind of just like body block, and you're just able to like you can charge with them. I mean, you can fight if you want. If not, you can just like pass, and then you're locked up with that model, and then your opponent has to choose, okay, am I going to fight and try to kill this model, or am I going to like potentially fall back? If you can do that move and lock up like 2 of your opponent's models who are like kind of chilling at the same access point, that's great for you, because then they would have to choose to like fall back with 2 models, and nobody likes doing that. Most likely they'll choose to fight. They fight you, you're able to just like parry out basically for every crit you get. Or no, just each time you parry, you block 2 of your opponent's successful hits. That's funny. Moving on now, they have the Brutal Display ability. Each time this operative incapacitates an enemy operative in combat, selects 1 other enemy operative visible to and within 6 of this operative or the incapacitated enemy operative. Okay. Until the start of the next turning point, that other enemy operative cannot perform mission actions or the pickup action or control objective markers. That seems really good to me. Yeah, I think on the competitive, like the tournament pack, I'm forgetting the name of it, but the competitive card pack that everyone uses for tournaments now. I don't think that Brutal Display is going to be that big a deal. But denying the ability for them to perform a pickup action or perform a mission action, yeah, I actually think that could be pretty good, yeah. Crimson Assault for 1 AP, perform a free fight action with this operative. After completing that action's fight sequence, if you are still within engagement range of an enemy operative, you can immediately fight in combat with this operative again, and then you do not have to select the same target. So remember that instance I was talking about earlier of charging 2 models on an access point, locking them up in combat? Alternatively, if you don't want to just like try to block your opponent out and shut down that access point, you're looking for kills, do this, because you've got 1 action point left. You get to fight twice. Doesn't have to be in the same model. That's pretty good. Next up, we have the Disciple of Yolindra. I don't know how these Eldari words are pronounced. So their big thing is the Stinger Pistol. So it's range 6. It's got the Stinger keyword, 5 attacks, damage 0/0. But the Stinger Pistol's ballistic skill, each time this operative makes a shooting attack with this weapon, In the roll attack dice step of that shooting attack, attack dice results excluding one that are less than the target's save characteristic inflict one mortal wound on the target. And then attack dice results of one inflict three mortal wounds on the target instead. So you want to be rolling low on this. I don't know, maybe Shane would enjoy this model. At the end of the roll attack dice step, that shooting attack ends, no defense dice are rolled, and no further damage is inflicted. So I could see like some potential for like chip damage here. Yeah, it's very interesting. And then note that it is the target's save characteristic, not an invulnerable save. Okay, so that's something good that they pointed out there. The Stinger special rule, each time an enemy operative is incapacitated by this weapon before it is removed from the kill zone, each operative visible to and within 2 of it suffers D3 mortal wounds, and then each operative that is subsequently incapacitated as a result of this special rule will cause this to happen again. So if you got like a bunch of guys who are very low on their health and one of them pops from this, you can just go down the line popping people. So I don't think that play is going to come up a whole lot. Yeah, this is a weird model. They have a unique action called the Torment Grenade for 1 AP. So you select a point on the kill zone within 6 of this operative, and you roll 1d6 for each other operative within circle of that point. So this includes your own models. You add 1 to the result if that other operative has a save characteristic of 4 up or less. You subtract 1 from the result if that other operative is not visible to this operative. On a 3 up, the other operative is poisoned until the end of the battle. Operatives can only be poisoned once. And then at the end of each turning point, poisoned operatives suffer 2 mortal wounds. Very cool. And then poisoned operatives are treated as being injured regardless of any rules that say they cannot be injured. So there's like a basically game-breaking clause here. I think this model... The model doesn't punch above its weight, but it is a good tech piece. It's a good way to get some like consistent damage. That poison ability, it almost reminds me of kind of like the bleed effect in Crisis Protocol. Except with this, it's not a condition. There's no way of curing this once you've been poisoned. Once a model's poisoned, they are taking 2 mortal wounds at the end of every turning point. So like ideally turn 2, you want to have this model in position to be throwing this Torment Grenade. Next up here we have the Cabalite Elixint. So they are armed with a Splinter Rifle, a Stim Needler. Stim Needler's 4 attacks hitting on 3s, once again damage 0/0. Range 3, lethal 3, interesting, and stun. Literally stun. That weapon is designed to give out the stun critical rule, basically. So he's got an ability called Combat Drugs. So if he's selected for deployment, yes, select one of the following abilities for friendly Hand of the Archon operatives to gain until the end of the battle. So there's Painbringer. So each time this operative would lose a wound as a result of an attack dice that inflicts damage, roll 1d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. Me personally, if this was like a 5 up, I'd be like, well, okay, yeah. But a 6 up, I don't really like this one. You're already so comparatively low wound count at 8 wounds compared to, I don't know, the blooded like Ogren, which has a similar interaction that you would want to do with this and the Corpseman model. That I don't think I don't think a 6 up Feel No Pain on one of my 8 wound models is really going to be worth it. The next one he does have, which I really do like, is Hypex. So you add 1 to this operative's movement characteristic. So that one can be really cool if you put it on. I almost want to say, I mean, it could be good on either like any of the melee models or what I would think of doing would be putting it on like a gunner, or probably the Arch Cyberite, just so I can get closer with his blast pistol faster to models. Yeah, pretty cool. He's got a unique action called Administer Drug for 1 AP. I select one friendly operative visible to and within 3 of him. Then I select one of the following. The operative regains D3 plus 1 wounds. Pretty okay. And then the second one is select a different combat drug's ability for that operative to gain until the end of the battle. So, like, in order to use that second clause, I believe you would have to choose the same model that you chose to dose the combat drugs to um, during deployment, basically. So, I don't really think you're going to find yourself using that a lot. So, I mean, the D3 plus 1 lost wounds on a model, because this one doesn't have the combat drugs clause. I think that one could be okay. I mean, like, you're guaranteed to heal 1 wound. This is an 8 wound team, so I don't really know how attached I would be to spending an AP to heal 1. Yeah, I don't know. The Hypex is good, though. I would probably always take this guy just for 1 inch of movement on another one of the models, which seems like a waste, but I don't think it is. Next up, we have the Cavalite Flayer. So he's got the Pain Sculptors. So this is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, damage 3/5 with Relentless. Very nice. And then he also has Flay. Flay is each time this operative fights in combat with this weapon, the first time it strikes with a critical hit, you can select one friendly hand of the Archon Operative within 6 of this operative to gain 1 pain token. So this guy is going to help you a little bit with your pain token generation, basically. So that can be pretty cool. Who would I want to like pair him with, though? I guess probably another combat model, or maybe the Cyberite, because the Cyberite's got a really good. Cyberite becomes great, I think, at 3 APL, because you're good in melee. You've got great shooting. It's short range shooting, but it's great. And yeah, I think I would want to pair him with the Cyberite. You shoot great, you fight great. If I'm taking the Cavalite Elixir, I'm going to be giving him +1, and he'll just become this drugged up monster, which I love. It's so thematic. Next up, we got the Cavalite Gunner. Nothing special going on here. They are your gun carrier, so I'm just going to breeze past it. The Heavy Gunner, if we're not taking the Dark Lance, we're going to be taking the Splinter Cannon, which is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, damage 3/5 with Fusillade, mid, heavy, mid, and lethal 5. Okay, I mean, 5 attacks hitting on 3s with lethal 5, with damage 3/5 profile. I think that can be pretty good. It's not the best. I just hate. So, like, do they have anything that can increase? It's not like they have any equipment pieces that help compensate for that heavy keyword. So, I feel like there might be some instances where you honestly might want to just take like a normal Cavalite. I don't know, just to be like an action monkey. I don't know. I'm probably wrong about that, but let me know what you think in the comments. I'm genuinely want to know what you guys think. The last model we've got here is the Sky Splinter Assassin. So this is the Birdman. You got the Razor Wing, which is the name of the actual bird. So bird gets 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, damage 1/2, indirect, no cover, and silent. He's got a Shard Carbine, so 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, damage 2/2 with ceaseless lethal 5, mortal wounds 2. Okay, I like that. And then his abilities, we have got Omen. So in the select equipment step, you can select 1 enemy operative or 1 friendly hand of the Archon Operative. Reveal your selection when you reveal equipment. And then each time attack or defense dice are rolled for that operative, if it is An enemy operative, your opponent must reroll dice results of 6. I love that. I think I'm going to be taking that one 100% of the time. If I do select a friendly operative, I can reroll dice results of 1. I'm already hitting on threes for most of this team, so I don't think that one's going to be that good. It's not like this team's armed with like a plasma equivalent or anything, so it's like I don't really know who I would want to put the reroll dice results of 1 on. So I think every game I'm going to be making one of my one of my opponent's models just not be able to inflict crits. That seems like it's pretty good. Even if they have lethal 5, right? Like, it wouldn't be as efficient, but like you're still taking them from a 33% chance of critting back down to a 16% chance, I think it is. So I mean, I love that. You don't even gotta see him or anything. That just happens in equipment. This is so good. He also has the hunter ability, so so long as this operative does not perform a mark action, which let's talk about that now. Let's talk about this now. The unique action is marked for 1 AP. You select an enemy operative visible to this operative that is not more than 2, it is not more than 2 higher than them until the end of the turning point. While that enemy operative is not in cover from heavy terrain, this operative treats it as having an engage order. This operative cannot perform this action while within engagement range, blah, 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 or in an activation in which it makes a shooting attack with the razor wing. So, I mean, this is good. You're playing on open, if you're playing on open and somebody has moved up to a piece of light cover, with a conceal order, say like we'll say like an orc commando, for instance, because they can be pretty dangerous, right? They can charge out of concealment. You put that, if you can see them, you put this on them. Oh, they're treated as having an engage token, and then I'm gonna kill them with something. Okay, so it does say that this operative treats it as having an engage order. So this model being APL2, I would really like be able to have pain tokens on it in order to bump it up to APL3. That way I could like move, mark, and then shoot. So I mean, it's a good ability. You just have to be cognizant of your action economy because it's just this operative who's treating the target of this ability as being engaged, not the rest of your team. So now we'll go back to the hunter ability. So long as this operative does not perform a mark action during its activation, it can perform 2 shoot actions during its activation if a razor wing is selected for 1 and only one of those shooting attacks. So you can razor wing and then you can shard carbine. I think it's a really flexible model. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's if nothing less, it's a cool model. A lot of the models in this team, they feel, I don't know, very unique to me. Like they do have like, oh, there's a melee duelist type character. Oh, I guess this Sky Splinter Assassin is like your sniper type character. The Cabalite Elixir is kind of like your medic type character. But yeah, I don't know. This team's just like very unique in terms of its design space, which I really like because it's like every time I see a human team come out, just like, baseline humans, it's kind of just like, oh, they have a sniper, they got like 2 gunners, they got, it's kind of, I don't know, I think you're pretty limited with the stuff you can do with humans. The Arby's, actually, the other team that comes in this box, I think that team is actually pretty unique. And just because of their ability, I think they're pretty cool. Next up, we're going to get into the equipment here. First up, for 1 AP, we have the Chain Snare. So while one enemy operative is within engagement range of this operative, that enemy operative is snared. Each time a snared enemy operative would perform a fallback action, roll a d6, subtracting 1 if that operative has a higher wounds characteristic than this operative, and adding 1 if that enemy operative is injured. On a 4-up, that enemy operative cannot perform that action, but no action points are subtracted. This particular piece of equipment, I think, can be really good against teams with lower wound counts, kind of like your Horde-esque teams, kind of like your Vet Guard, Pathfinders, teams like that. It's really cheap for 1 EP, so you can just put this on like pretty much like all of like your melee powerhouse models in this team, and kind of keep them locked in combat. Next up is the Wicked Blade for 1 EP, operative equipped with an array of blades only. You add 1 to that weapon's attack characteristic for the battle. So once again, another really cheap piece of equipment for 1 EP. I can see you throwing this on some of like the gunners, just to make every model in your kill team a little bit more well-rounded, which I really like, honestly. Next up is Toxin Coating for 1 or 2 equipment points. Select 1 melee weapon the operative is equipped with. That weapon gains the lethal 5-up special rule for the battle. If you selected Array of Blades, this equipment costs 1 EP, otherwise it costs 2 EP. So, for the Toxin Coating, I would probably wind up putting that on the Cabalite Flare for sure. I feel like that's almost like an auto take in most matchups, if not every matchup. Yeah, it already has Relentless. It has the Flay keyword doesn't really factor into this that much, but yeah, just given that the Pain Sculptor's lethal 5-up can get pretty good, and you don't have to take this on your Arch Cyberite or your Crimson Duelist, because they already have lethal 4 and 5 respectively. Next we've got Refined Poison. So for 2 or 3 equipment points, you select 1 Shard Carbine, Splinter Cannon, Splinter Pistol, or Rifle the operative is equipped with. You add 1 to the normal damage characteristic of that weapon for the battle. If you selected a Splinter Pistol or Rifle, the equipment costs 2 EP, otherwise it costs 3. I would think about throwing this maybe on the Shard Carbine or the Splinter Cannon, maybe? I don't know, I'm not a big fan of the Heavy Gunner. I'm probably like undervaluing it, honestly. I don't think it's as good as something like the Chain Snare or the Toxin Coating. We have the Plasma Grenade for 3 equipment points. Plasma Grenade is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, damage 3-4, range 6, blast 2, indirect, and limited. So obviously you're going to want to take this Plasma Grenade on somebody. Next is the Phantasm Grenade Launcher for 3 EP. So the Phantasm Grenade, it's 1 action point. Select 1 point on the kill zone within 6 of this operative. Roll 1d6 for each operative within 3 of that point, subtracting 1 from the result. If that operative is not visible to this operative, on a 4-up, subtract 1 from that operative's APL. This operative can only perform this action once and cannot perform this action while within engagement range of an enemy operative. Spending an action point to take away another model's one of their APs, basically. I think they could be pretty good up against like elite teams, maybe. I don't really see it having that much of an effect. I don't know. I think that might just be like good, period. Next up is the Cabalite Banner for 2 equipment points. So the operative you equip it to gains the following ability for the battle. While a friendly operative is visible to and within 3 of this operative, when determining control of an objective marker, treat that friendly operative's APL as being 1 higher. Note that this is not a modifier, so I mean it's your average banner. I think it can be really good, helping you to control points and stuff. It's only 2 EP, so I think that's going to be worth it. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the equipment. The big things that stand out to me are that Chain Snare and the Toxin Coating, like I said. Even the Wicked Blades, I mean, they're all 1 equipment point, so like it can't get much cheaper than that. Toxin Coating obviously is going to be 2, but yeah, I think those particular pieces of equipment I'm particularly interested in. So finally, we are going to get into the TAC ops for the Hand of the Archon team here. So first off, we have Pay the Soul Debt. Reveal this tac op the first time a friendly operative gains a pain token. You start a soul debt tally, adding 1 to the tally each time a friendly hand of the Archon operative gains a pain token, including the first time. If your soul debt tally is 7 or more, you score 1 victory point. If your soul debt tally is 9 or more, you score another victory point. This team has, the only way that you generate pain tokens is either by killing enemy models or by using the Cabalite Flayer's Flay ability. So I haven't been able to like actually play this team yet. So I'm gonna like withhold my judgment on that objective, or on that tac op. It could be very good. This team, they just want to get stuck in combat and they do want to kill things. So like if you're not killing anything reliably, then it's probably going to be bad. But against like hordes where everybody's like 7 or like even 8 wounds, I would consider taking this one. Next up, we have Slave Run. Reveal this tac op the first time an enemy operative is incapacitated. Each time an enemy operative is incapacitated, before it is removed from the kill zone, you place 1 of your slave tokens underneath the operative as close as possible to the center of its base. Friendly hand of the Archon operatives can perform the pickup action on that token while not within engagement range of an enemy operative. You subtract 2 from their movement characteristic while they are carrying it. And then at the end of the battle, so this is scored at the end of the battle, if 2 or more of your slave tokens are being carried by friendly hand of the Archon operatives, you score 1 VP. If 4 or more of your slave tokens are being carried by friendly hand of the Archon operatives, you score 1 VP. So I think this one is going to be tough to score depending on the matchup, but because both of those scoring conditions, they're both triggered at the end of the game, you can, just kill 4 models on your opponent's team, leave your slave tokens there until like turning point 4 hypothetically, and then just have your models pick them up, and there's your max secondary or your max tac op. So I think a few other people are kind of low on this right now. I think this could be good because, like I said, you want to be killing things anyway. So this is just like a way of rewarding you for killing things. I think this might be able to stack well with something like, this might stack well with like Rob and Ransack, I think. Yeah, that could be a play there. Finally, we have Contemptuous Slaughter. So at the end of any turning point, if 1 or more enemy operatives, you can reveal this tac op at the end of any turning point, including the first. At the end of any turning point, if 1 or more enemy operatives were incapacitated during that turning point and no friendly hand of the Archon operatives were, you score 1 VP. And if you achieve the first condition at the end of any subsequent turning point, you score 1 VP. So kill models, don't get your models killed, you score 2 points. You cannot score these conditions in a turning point in which no friendly hand of the Archon operatives are in the kill zone. Obviously, if you've been tabled, you can't score it. I feel like this one might be the hardest because the team feels like they want to be involved and they want to be in combat pretty much every turn. And having a team that plays like that, you're going to wind up trading. Contemptuous Slaughter could be really good, but you're gonna need a lot of reps with this team, I think, in order to like really master the team enough to the point where you can take Contemptuous Slaughter and feel confident in being able to max it. So to kind of just wrap up my thoughts on the Hand of the Archon team, I think this is a very cool team. They are very unique in terms of their design. A lot of their models have abilities that we have not really seen in the game before. It seems like there is good synergies between the models and the tac ops, or not the tac ops, the tactical ploys and the strategic ploys. I don't think their tac ops are the strongest, but I think there's some play there, especially with Slave Run. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just really excited to get this team built and start playing it. They're a semi-horde. They seem like they're melee focused, but they do have they do have the gunners. They do have that Sky Splinter Assassin. But I really think the stars of the show here are the Cavalite Flare and the Crimson Duelist and your Arch Cyberite. They've got like a lot of like neat movement tricks, which I'm really interested in. So I'm excited to get this team on the table as soon as I can. To me, I think this team could be very, very good competitively speaking. I'm not saying like they're S tier out of the gate, but like I would not be surprised if somebody is able to pick up this team and perform well with them enough to the point where like Shane and I are thinking like bottom A tier. They just seem like they're a team that has like a higher skill ceiling, um, and a higher skill floor. So I don't know. I want to know what you guys think, though. What do you think of the Hand of the Archon team? Tell me what you guys think in the comments down below because I am very excited about this team and I think they could be quite good. But yeah, that is going to do it for the Hand of the Archon Kill Team. Thank you guys for watching until the end of the video here. If you are subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. If you aren't, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future Kill Team content. As always, a special thank you to our YouTube channel members and our supporters over on Patreon. Your guys' support is a massive help to the growth and the sustainment of the YouTube channel here. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope to catch you all again in the next one.